Okay, so I think we are started and recording, so I'll turn it
Great.
over to you, Pam.
Thank you very much. Hi, everyone. It is December 11, 2025. This is a regular meeting of the Community Resource Committee of the Town Council. As a virtual meeting pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2025, which extends through June 30, 2027, the ability of public bodies to meet in a remote or hybrid manner without a quorum of members in person. This meeting will be conducted via remote means. Members of the public who wish to access the meeting may do so via Zoom or by telephone. No in-person attendance of members of the public or our committee is possible, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. We have a quorum. We have started recording, and we'll just see if everyone can be heard. Mandy Johanneke,
Present.
Kathy Shane,
Yes.
and Pam Rooney is also present, and she can hear herself speak. So that's good. We have no public hearings. We have no attendees. I was going to open up the meeting for public comment. And if somebody shows up later, I will open it again if that's okay with you all for public comment. It will probably be on solar, I'm guessing. So we'll just move right along. Action items. And Stephanie, thank you for pushing to join us at 4. I really appreciate it. I knew it was close. You said maybe you could be here by 4:15. So
No worries.
and we are dealing with the solar bylaw, clean energy bylaw model from the state. And we will be talking through what that state model looks like compared to the material we put together. I'm looking at Mandy, who
Would
has
you like
been
me to share my screen?
I would love that. You are our scribe. Thank you. And this is the kind of thing. So I'm going to recap for anyone who is listening to the recording at some point. The intent is to put together as much material as we can. Today we have another meeting scheduled for the 18th, which I'm actually going to suggest I would love to cancel. But that said, we will try to get as much material today as we can. And then we are going to be asking staff to take some time to review and comment on it. Kathy.
Yeah, I have a question also for the record, but just for all of us, is I believe the draft we're reviewing today that we've compiled using the state model bylaw and where we were on our own and taking all of our own into this and then adding whatever was in the state bylaw, changing wording accordingly. So my question with that overall view, have we basically done all parts at this point? Because when we left off, I guess it was now 2 weeks ago, the materials to be submitted section Pam was doing, and I believe, Amanda, you brought that all in. So
Mhm.
I think, and so I'm making the statement, that we've got little comment bubbles, we've got some unresolved issues, but I think we're done with consolidating them other than going through these. Is that correct?
My
That's my
understanding,
belief.
yes. Yep.
Yeah. Other than potentially needing sections because we have remaining questions, right? But this is what we're working off of now because we've imported and merged everything. My knowledge is.
Yep.
And so if we can be efficient today, we'd be accepting track edits where there's a question of how to word it, potentially leaving some unanswered questions yet while we turn it back over to Stephanie and people who are also looking at this. Is that correct? So that's just, so what I'd hope is what Pam just said, that we would get far enough that it was at a point that we could turn it over with comment bubbles and these questions, without having to meet again next week. Because that's what
That'd be even better.
because that's what I saw in today's draft. And so I was just double checking that's where we are. Thank you.
Yes. Yes, so I think as we go, I had started, now I'm looking for it, but I had started a list of things that I particularly wanted sort of staff to think about as it gets handed over to them. And we can, I'm going to try to keep tabs on that if I can find it again, as we go through things.
I'm ready.
But
Yep.
other than that, Mandy, do you want to, since you put these questions together, do you want to walk us through these, please?
Yeah, sure. The first one I don't think we can answer here. That's a staff question, which is we are, the ZBA has its own rules and regs, the planning board has its own rules and regs, that each of those have different submittal requirements, but our table has these permits going to either location, but the state requires a consolidated permit. And so one of the questions I had was, how do we sort of incorporate that consolidated permit stuff into the bylaw? And do we need to override some of the ZBA rules and regs that deal with, quote, consolidated permits, mainly the 40B permits, but I don't know how specific they are to 40B, right? And
Right.
and how do we do that, right? But we also don't want to say none of the rules and regs apply, because that would get rid of the planning board submittal require, like some things that we were relying on applying, including fees for applications. So I think it's a staff question that we leave in here, and staff can answer this consolidated permit that needs to be done for all solar, clean energy applications, whether this bylaw applies or not, needs to figure out what we do with it, basically, and how we address
Yep.
that.
And Pam, if
I'd
you
like
can
to
do a
I'd like to
memo-
weigh I'd like to weigh in on just go like this if you want to talk, just because there are three of us, it makes more sense. But when I look at the ZBA rules and regs, they're fairly generic, and they're heavily focused on small, residential scale kinds of projects. So it feels like much of the material that we have here in our document, the solar document, is more appropriate to maintain. It covers everything that a comprehensive permit would have to ask for anyway, but then I'd be happy to hear back from staff on that.
Pam, I just want to add, and then I'll let Stephanie talk, Mandy, for another bullet, is you've got it later, but we're supposed to identify who the person is. And that goes
Point
with this
person.
consolidated permit. Where does that lie? So, if we're doing a memo to staff, you're kind of giving some of the guts of it here. It's like fill in the blank, or leave it blank for now on the who. Right?
Yeah, good. So the next question, should bylaw and use table include accessory uses, the non-ground mount, and really small, like the model bylaw does? When I look at the really small and canopy type things, it feels like we should not have to cover those in this particular bylaw. Just like we said originally, this bylaw does not apply to X, Y, and Z. It feels like we want to make a similar statement.
Yeah, and so I
Kathy.
started that. Sorry, I started that here in applicability, but it still has this question of, do we put small scale best, small scale, whatever this might, like what do we put some of it into the use table too? And then obviously we have to talk about what applies and what doesn't to this thing and how that affects it. Sorry, Kathy.
And then And then Mandy, back up at top, I was going to put a sub-bullet to that, that we've identified some places like accessory use. This is an example of one where if we're saying it's accessory, the accessory use table, that's in the current bylaws has to mention these small scale solar. So it's, so far we haven't explicit, but there's a list of those, Stephanie, where we need a definition over in the general definition table, or then in this one, it's accessory use has a whole bunch of what is considered an accessory use. So we're not doing that, I hope, in this, but it's, flagging it that if we decide it is an accessory use, it needs to be mentioned in the what are accessory uses.
Yep.
So I'm just going along thinking these are like, this is the beginning of the memo to staff on things that we're not necessarily going to do in this. So you've got other places, Mandy, where you've done it like we both do hazardous waste. I think there's a definition of it here and there's a definition of it over already. We flag those for whatever we define, have it be defined the same way in both places, which
Yeah.
is different than the accessory use. I'm just saying that it's a cross-reference, yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Did I miss any of the flagging that you wanted me to do?
No, I don't think so. This is specific to accessory use, and later I think you've got it too.
Mhm.
You've got it throughout that change the definition and make it part of a definition.
Yeah.
And that was when I read through it, but it said, see article, whatever the article is, Article 12 with definitions. And I went and looked at Article 12 and it didn't have a definition. So we were saying add a definition
Add it.
to.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
And that's at the bottom of this document,
Yeah.
those additions
Yeah.
too.
Yeah. There's another whole section on page 24, 25 of this document that stuff we need to deal with.
Yeah.
Okay, model bylaws separates levels of condition based on use table permitting structure, which is itself based on sizes. Do we want a similar structure?
Yeah, so
Uh,
I left this in here, even though this draft attempts to do that in the applicability section when we get there. But I left the question in there because we weren't fully resolved on how, but that we did want it to wanted some separate, easier for smaller stuff. That was the last meeting, but we have to make the decisions on what that means.
So here I'd put another bullet is for now, we made a decision on this. So this is when we want the staff to, I'd make a second bullet, i.e. should the bulk, so is staff okay with the decisions we've made? So Stephanie, you've read the model ones, they do, on best, they've got they've got a best level, so it is what we've done. Does that make sense? That we made decisions, right? Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
I want to double check the decisions because I don't actually remember.
We'll get there.
Making-
I had to
yeah,
take
yeah.
some guesses in what we might do when we said, last week we said, this is why I left the comment bubble here. Yes, minimize the requirements for small scale ground mount, make it
Yeah.
simple and easy as possible, have
Yeah.
medium and large go through the main process. So
Yeah.
we have to check to see if I did that correctly.
Actually
but
did it. Perfect.
That's
Yep,
what I
good.
tried to do in this one. Hence
Yeah.
why it's resolved, but left.
And so that is also related to this last bullet, which is should best be separated into tiers for purpose of use table.
Well, it comes, see, Pam, it also, the next, Bess also had it. So it is, the state is very different for twos and threes than ones.
Right.
And at first we were talking about Bess, and then we realized little Bess, baby Besses, the tier one, are more
Yeah.
like what goes with your house, but you still want some sort of oversight over them so they don't blow up.
Right.
Yeah, so Bess was one we talked about it for solar, but we hadn't talked about it for Bess. I don't know how big a aggregate energy capacity of 250 or whatever is, but I know there's still concerns about all the water issues on stuff. So it might not be a size issue more than a location issue, maybe, as to where things apply. I don't know. But we did not talk about how to do that. It might be good to just get staff's opinion on that one instead of making a decision ourselves before we hear from staff.
And so I just
I'm gonna just add my thoughts on that is that with the exception of, you know, small house battery type things, it feels like whether it's a large or medium BESS, the siting is similar, the conditions for access for the fire trucks is similar. It feels to me that we have a category for BESS for everything except the residential scale stuff. And I think if people disagree with that, it would be good to know why we would want to break it down further.
Well, and I don't know what the town now does, Stephanie. We must have some homes that already have their backup batteries, you know, that they're running off their battery, not just during the period. And I'm assuming somewhere in the town, we know who those are and that they went through, I'm making an assumption they went through some permitting process.
Absolutely. They had to go through, you know, at the very minimum, they had to go through for an electrical permit. So all of that gets checked out. So I don't know how they're necessarily dealing with it, you know, under the current structure. I think they're treating it as any other energy system associated with a home. So, I think I think, sort of treating that separately, the residential is sort of like treating the residential solar separately. I think they're similar scales. So, yes, you're going to have some concerns about fires, but some of that is also current perception on fire, battery storage and the danger of battery storage. I feel like some of that is like a current concern that's maybe I don't know, people tend to get fearful when they hear about something and suddenly make it more exponentially larger than it is. I think treating it as we have, where we have an electrical inspection, and we treat it the way we have with solar, I think that's sort of the pathway to go, is treat it sort of similar to solar and residential sites.
Yeah. Okay, so we did not really answer those questions on the first page. We added to them. But
Pam, can I just say, to me, the
Yeah.
first page, you said you were going to do a memo to staff. The first page is the beginning of that memo. So whatever else, when we get to the end, whatever else, this is questions to be addressed by staff, further discussion, but it is the beginning of a memo to staff when we turn this
Yeah.
over. Yeah.
Yeah. And
So
full disclosure, I can spend some time on it tonight and that's it. I am going to be in Brooklyn with a brand new baby for the whole week starting Friday, tomorrow.
I'm fine with it. I'm just saying we can be efficient today. I'm taking notes.
I'm
And
taking notes too. Yeah, if you
And
want
so
to
if
send
you get, at the end of all of this, if you get to tonight with the draft memo to staff and you send it out, I will have notes and I can finalize it for you.
Okay.
You can ask Mandy and me to say, did you capture it all?
Yep.
And we'll get it to final. We can lift it over
Yep.
the final curve.
Yes. And we all know that this is the target. It's not an exhaustive list. Good. Okay. Go ahead.
It relates to the conversation on the tiers of BESS, right?
Yeah.
While we haven't tiered BESS particularly, with co-located we did, I think in the use table, we can go down there. But what we did say down here, and this is what I highlighted, do we put it here? Do we put it in a use table with a yes? does accessory use regulate these well enough, right? Essentially questions we left above, but I guess the question I have while Stephanie is here is building integrated BESS is in a sense what we think of. Well, I think some of that is the battery for houses, maybe. And co-located BESS with an aggregate energy capacity of less than 250 would be small but commercial, probably. And right now we've said, just like we did canopy installations, which are parking lot because we took out agrivoltaic canopy, building mounted, which is your rooftop solar, behind the meter is some of the most residential ones, would all be accessory uses. Is everyone okay right now with this list and the question for staff? And then we can go back to the one above that has the changes.
The
My
answer-
only question would be with the aggregate energy capacity of less than 250 kilowatts. I still have a hard time understanding the size of these various elements. So 250 kilowatts is actually a pretty good sized system.
So
a
that's what they
co-located-
called the model bylaw called a tier 1 system. So they're the smallest. It was their smallest
Yeah.
split in the model bylaw.
Yeah.
Hence I
Yeah,
picked
but
that number.
it still could be up to 5 acres.
No, this is BESS.
This is
I know,
best.
but
This is BESS.
it could be, it's a co-located BESS, so it means that the installation itself could be up to 5 acres.
The solar installation might be, but this isn't talking
Right.
about the solar side. This is the BESS side is an accessory use to the solar side if it's that small. If
This
it's
is-
not that
if-
small,
if-
it's a
if that's not written-
non-accessory use.
This is specific to best, Pam. If that's not clear with this, it's not the system, it's just best.
I know it's just BESS. It was sort of the size of that unit that I'm grappling with. Okay. I'll take your word for it. We'll assume it's actually small, and we can keep, as far as I can tell, we could keep it lumped into this section.
No. Okay. And then the other one was I tried to, with the note that we had above about small scale ground mount solar, which is 25 megawatts or smaller, I think, for solar, I think is what we did it as. This is where I tried to split out, similar to the model bylaw, what do they have to do and what they don't. And 01 to 07 they would have to do, and then portions of 08, and then 12 and 15. So 1 to 3 and 6 in 08, and we can go and show you what they are. And then 12 and 15, those matched as best I could. I know it sounds weird to have these like that, but I tried to match what the model bylaw had applying to the yes stuff. Because the model bylaw did it by, was it a yes, a site plan review, or a special permit? So we couldn't really, but I tried to get it to more of the yes side of the model bylaw on what it would include. So what that includes is applicability. Apparently our definitions is 3 and we don't have a 2 anymore. So we might have to fix these numbers.
Yeah.
But definitions, the compliance with the laws, the pre-filing requirements, the site suitability, and the fees. And then for permit application, it would be who it's submitted to. The plans need to be signed and comply with the requirements of the CMR. And the conflict issue, and then, but not the submittal requirements here. So they would have the submittal requirements of the CMR and whatever the permit granting authority is. And then number 6 is the waiver and modification of the submittal requirements, which I don't know whether it needs to be there if you don't have anything else, but I thought I'd include that one. And then 12 is So dimensional and design is not included in the small scale ground mount. Neither is the specific installations, but then what would be for small scale is stormwater management bylaw. And then 15, so not the hazardous material stuff. This is small scale solar, not BESS, and not the emergency plan, but the building permit and inspection is the ones that I did for small scale solar. So if there's
That
others,
seems, yeah.
we should add them in. But
that
that's what
seems,
the
that
model
seems
bylaw had.
reasonable. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I only half listened to this last piece. I looked up what a 250 BESS is, or slightly near that. No, it's the size of a small appliance or a cabinet. It's multiple
Mm.
batteries, but a typical household would be more 20 and 50. So we need some guidance from staff on, is there something, the state laid it out as one, but and Mandy, you're right, they said it would typically be with a small commercial building. A house, a freestanding house would typically not have it, but maybe, I'm thinking of the collection of duplexes here that's coming in Ball Lane. They don't have solar arrays, but if they ever got solar arrays, they might want to connect to it. And certainly our school, we don't have a BESS, but if we did, we have a platform waiting for it. So I think all of those are going to be in the 250 range. They're not the super big ones. So we just need some, they are quite different than the small house, more household backups.
But they're also quite different from the large commercial BESS.
And they're really
installation that we
different
think
from
of too.
when you walk the solar field up here, they're giant.
Yeah.
They're really, yeah. So, and they make a lot of noise.
So for now, they
Mm.
might be we might best leave them under accessory use instead of primary use.
Yeah, and as I said, I just need someone who actually knows. Our electrical people, Tiffany, would know how much more complex these are, worried about the biggies, how much more you really want to make sure they're far away from a wooden house or something. I have
Right.
no
So,
idea.
so Kathy, the items, the sections that we just ran through are the ones for small ground PIs. So the list seemed to be pretty inclusive. If we in fact are aiming to simplify a process for small.
Yeah, I'm only focused on the best
Okay.
one, the
Yeah,
tier
and,
one.
Yep.
and I guess the other question would be then, should small scale non-co-located BESS be included here?
Yep.
Can we put that
I'm
as a
just gonna
question?
call
Yeah.
it tier one BESS for now. I think tier one's the smallest. Yeah.
So I just have a question? As we go through, if we like the words we've added, we're not going to have enough time to go back. I wouldn't mind just doing an accept the edit if we like it, so that
Yep.
we can.
Oh.
That's all right. You just did one, but leave the comment bubble,
Yeah.
but accept the edits. So
I said oops because the comment disappeared when I accepted the edits. Yeah, no, the track changes here are the things that changed from one week to another in essence.
yeah, no,
And
I'm just I
so,
understand
yeah.
that, Mandy, and I appreciate. I'm just saying, if we say
Yep.
it's okay.
So the answer is yes, we can try to do that,
Yep.
Kathy.
Okay.
Okay. So I moved in definitions aggregate energy capacity to the Article 12. I
Yep.
did not change it. I moved it to Article 12 because it's now in the use table. So I just wanted to show that that was a change. Does anyone have other questions about the, oh, I had a question here. We had a draft definition, but Article 12 actually defines hazardous materials currently. So we probably don't want to create conflicting definitions.
If we have it in Article 12, we don't need it here.
Okay.
Right. That's the thing. And so
I
Pam,
think the question also for staff is when we, whether it's definitions or other, mostly let's just stick with definitions right now. If we have some of these definitions in Article 12, we do we want all of the associated do we want the definitions from this bylaw all plugged into Article 12, or shall we keep them here as much as possible? Because in a comprehensive review, it's so much easier to go to one source. I'd like to keep as much here as possible that's solar related.
yeah, so Mandy's adding a piece.
Yep.
You know, too, Pam, I react to something when I say see Article 12. I go, and right now, right now, a few of them don't exist, so that makes it even more confusing. But we have to make sure we write them in Article 12. And Stephanie, well, you're not necessarily the writing of all of these. Some of our bylaws do put it in, even if it's over in another one, and some don't. So, yeah.
Yeah, that was the case with even while we were working on, I believe, the beginnings of the solar bylaw, and we were going back and forth about what to include, what not to include. And I think there are some things, as long as there's consistency in the definitions, like sometimes they show up in both, and sometimes they're just in one article. So just making sure that there's consistency in terms of if they show up in both.
Yep.
So on this 03.26, I take it that the state model said significant.
Yes, the state regulations and guidelines use the term significant storm event, so I thought we'd be consistent with that. So I changed heavy rain event to significant storm event. And they actually defined it or proposed a definition that was 1 inch in 24 hours, and ours had been a ½ inch in 24 hours. So I just wanted to note that I did make that change to be consistent with the state model stuff and regulations.
I can agree with this. Kathy?
Yeah. Yes.
We'll delete that. Anything else in definitions? I didn't have any changes in 804. We pulled that one. I think, Kathy, you and I pulled that directly from the model bylaw.
Yep.
So.
And it wasn't that different. We had some word in a few places, the model bylaws was very close to ours anyway.
Yeah.
And it was, then I cross-checked with Shutesbury, since I know it's passed muster, and it was either identical or.
The model bylaw took a lot of their stuff from Shutesbury.
And the main thing that we've done here throughout, Stephanie, I think you heard us say is, instead of having a solar and a BESS, we've used solar or BESS because we looked at the state model and the wording was identical. So rather than having BESS in one place and solar in another, so it said BESS had to comply with blah, 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 blah. So did solar. So this is a combo here.
Good.
Yeah. Trying to shorten the length of pages in the zoning bylaw.
Yeah. In section 1805, the filing requirements, here's a sort of a staff question. Oops, not that one. In 06, sorry. There's site suitability assessment shall not require minimization or mitigation measures. The question I had is who defines the minimization and mitigation measures? Is that defined in a site suitability rating, or is that who actually puts together, we can accept this if you do X, Y, and Z?
So this is a section that we created our own that's not in a model bylaw at all. And the highly suitable, the suitable or moderately suitable, and the not very suitable and unsuitable are pulled from the state regulations, draft guidance documents. And those guidance documents basically said if it's highly suitable, you're not going to be able to require minimization or mitigation measures, but it didn't talk about who. I think the who is the permit granting authority. So that might be the planning board or the ZBA during those negotiations of, oh, you're highly suitable. We can't require minimization. The one thing that all of the regulations, no matter where you look and no matter which department, they don't talk about what is minimization or what is mitigation, and they don't define it. They don't give true examples. So we have no definitions in the bylaw. Maybe, I know that was some people were making comments like, what are you going to define those terms? So that might be something maybe we put a bullet that says, see if modified regulations define these terms or something.
Well,
Yeah.
I
Kathy?
also wanted to say that, since this is still in motion with the state, the initial suitability assessment, the entity that's proposing it is creating a rating for themselves. So what we're saying is the state is accepting this and we're receiving it. So the question is, I don't want to change this wording at all, but we made, if it comes back to us with this kind of rating, it was basically, you'd be hard pressed to stop it, but you could
Yeah.
challenge the rating and say, so I think, I just want to, is this question necessary? And is this okay? Because Pam, it's not quite clear, whether there is a professional group who's going to help with this rating, but it looks like it's driven by the proposer. And so
Right.
they might characterize it in a way that is highly suitable. And when we look at it locally, we say, wait a minute, it's X, Y, or Z. It's clear that if it comes out as not very suitable or unsuitable, so this was again, can we just reject it outright? The state model doesn't say that, but it implies it would be
So
pretty.
that's not the point, though. Thank you for that. But I'm actually sort of fixated on the words minimization and mitigation measures. That's pretty well defined in federal standards like NEPA and all that kind of thing. They'll describe what this is. I'd like to keep it in here for now. It sounds like it is a little bit in flux. And I'm happy to move on. I just was kind of questioning who actually describes those measures ultimately.
Well, we're also accepting the rating here, Pam, was the one I was isolating, not how much they define those words, but we're accepting it's either a 1, 2, or a 3. And we might look at the same thing and challenge it. And there is an ability to challenge it. So it's all I'm flagging. I like what's here, but I think at some point the people in town who know more about this might say,
Yeah.
would we make the sage judgment? And then, in addition, what does minimization mean? What does mitigation mean?
Yep.
It's two things. Okay,
Yep.
so I'm
Good.
fine with this, and I
Good.
like us trying to just say, if it's deemed not suitable, we don't have to go through the permitting process. It's gone,
Well, so if it's
We
deemed
said-
unsuitable, you might be able to, but you'd have to go through the process, but the permit might be zero, be a no.
Yeah,
might
it might be,
ultimately
it's,
be
yeah, maybe
not granted.
rejected, yeah.
Yeah.
Or
Okay,
mass-
fees. The question stays the same. I don't think anything in here changed week to week.
Right.
We just have questions about do we even need it and stuff. So for Pam's sake, I think I said this. Everything in red is things I changed from what you sent me. Everything in black is what you sent me. Some of it
Oh,
is
shoot. Okay, so hold on just a second. So when I sent it in, everything in black was our material and or the state's because it was similar.
oh,
Red.
so wait. Let me. I'm on red on the screen. Everything in tracked changes is what I changed. If it's red without a track change, it's what you had in red. It's just my track change also put it in red, which is so if it's underlined or struck through, It's a change from what you sent me.
That's everything then.
No,
No, no, just the underline. Underline is track change.
yeah,
Red, apparently you wrote in red, Pam.
yeah.
So where you wrote in red, like
So for
A,
example, 801 and 802 are new from what you sent me or moved. One of them might be moved in sort of a reformatted.
and if you look at the bottom where
Oh yeah, because
capital
I
A, capital
struck the
A and
professional
B.
engineer here.
Okay, so we're coming to that one.
So
Yeah, so
capital A
I
and B are
struck,
what
for
you-
example, I
Yeah.
struck professional engineer from existing conditions plan and moved basically that requirement
Yes,
up to
yeah,
its own
I'm
section.
fine with that. I'm fine with that.
I am.
Okay, let's make our way through. Um, those are fine. Oh,
One is
two,
attempt to say, who are we submitting this to?
that's good. And that should be kind of a staff review question, correct?
Yeah. I'll fix the colors afterwards. So you must have put this one in blue or something at one point. Who
Blue
knows?
was new. Blue was new.
Blue was new. Okay. So that I basically copied and pasted into a different section. And then 3, I modified a little bit, but I don't think I changed. Oh, I moved it's not anything that we haven't seen before. I just sort of reformatted, I think, some of what you wrote. Because I think you did all applicants submittal requirements here, and then you had the colon and did stuff, and I moved that down into a new section sort of to clean things up. But and I added the conflict. I think we had, it might have been somewhere else, and I moved it up here. And so this, what I changed here is clearing up that anyone, including small scale ground mount, must comply with the regs, the state regs. In addition, some have to submit what's in 4.
Right.
And if there's a conflict between the rules and regs of the PGA and 4 rules.
Yep.
So I don't think it materially changes anything you wrote and submitted, Pam.
Yep. Okay, let's keep going.
And then I had to write a new sentence because I created a new section for what you wrote.
Which makes it hard for me to go back and look and see what I sent. Okay. So that's good.
Oh, wait, I
Where,
think this is MGPI too.
So this is where the red, Pam, is you. I find it very
Yes.
confusing.
Yes, this
I
is
must
where the
say.
red is Pam, except for this one that's highlighted because that I moved up. So I'm going to accept that and get rid of it right now.
okay, hold on. Don't get up. Put it back, please. The words based on a ground, the one that you highlighted right there, based on a ground-based survey, those are words from Christine Brestrup. And what it means is that these plans should not be based on aerial photographs or like GIS. They really need to be a ground-based survey.
Okay. I had read that wrong because I was thinking it was the PE and
That's
a
fine.
copy
The
of the
PE,
PE.
the PE,
And it
the
wasn't.
PE part
So
is fine. The
yeah, no,
PE
but it
part is
wasn't.
fine.
So I
That's
thought it was a
fine.
duplicate
Yeah.
of the PE, and it's not. So I just rejected my change. So
Yeah.
we're keeping it in.
So in C1, we can get rid of stamped by a registered no, that's a land surveyor.
That's a
That
land,
is
yeah, right.
registered.
I had thought they were duplicates, which is why I deleted it.
Got it.
So
Oh,
now
good
we're looking,
catch.
Pam. Now, Pam, we're looking at your words. You just seem
I
to,
understand. I understand.
Yep.
yeah, you wrote in red.
Right. And the red is stuff that was brought in from the model material.
The model bylaw.
Right. The black is what we had originally. The red is from the model material.
All of that is fine with me. So I will
Yeah.
just give permission to change it to black.
Yep.
I'm also good with it.
So the one I struggle with is the tree. Because
We got rid of trees.
we
Yeah.
got rid of this like identifying every tree above a certain thing because it seemed impractical. And I think that's what Stephanie suggested at one point. So I'm hesitant to put it back in.
But
This is
Pam,
from the
but
state.
I
It is on
know.
the state model. So I'm going to explain. Even our ZBA says, I think all trees greater than 8-inch DBH need to be documented. ZBA is obviously, again, sort of small scale residential type projects. It makes sense there. This is 20 inches or more. These are large trees. These are 50, 60-year-old trees. And I think the intent from the state is that if they're going through some mitigation process, then you say, we lost this biomass, these key species or something or other. It's important that we replace them. And that's the basis for documentation.
can I just suggest put a comment bubble so Stephanie realizes that that's in the state draft? The reason we pulled it back in is because the state went to this giant tree measure and it was in the model.
Yeah.
So it wasn't that we originally pulled it out, but with Pam, is
Yep.
what you just said, I think is correct. The state said these are really big. Yeah.
And I just wanted to jump in real quick.
Yep.
So that comment came from staff during the staff review process. And they were just saying, the challenge of, ensuring that every tree was accounted for and, that,
Yeah.
but I don't disagree coming from the state because I think there's been a lot of pushback about deforestation. So I think it's fine. I mean, I think this is a bigger issue in the eastern part of the state than
Yep.
this part of the state. So, I would, leave it in if it was in the state model, and I can explain that when I review it, this draft.
Yep. Yep. I'm okay with number 4. I think adjacent parcels, it's important to show where you are relative to everything else.
And that's your change, Pam. So I like it too.
No, that
Yeah.
was state material.
Oh, well, you
Yeah,
brought it in though. Oh, I see.
Pam brought it in for the state.
Oh, I got it. So it wasn't necessarily that you agreed with it, it was just you
No.
brought it in one way or the other.
I brought it in and I agree with it.
So
Okay.
I have a question about our active farmland. We don't define it. It was in our draft. I wonder if we should get rid of it and just stick with the prime farmland and the soils and farmland of statewide importance that are easier to define. So this is us including in an existing conditions plan identification of active farmland versus just prime farmland and soils and farmland of statewide importance. Otherwise, we have to come up with a definition of what active farmland is.
I thought that had already been defined, like has been used, has been modified or managed within the last 5 years.
It is not in our definitions.
Okay. Let's put a staff review comment.
I lost where I was. Sorry.
It goes to our waylaid nexus statement that, we thought this was important.
Right.
Active farmland for Amherst is probably more of a thing than forest. We don't have that much forest. Yep, great. Thank you.
Okay.
Wellhead protection area. I think this is something I would really like Stephanie and the wetlands coordinator to look at. We have, in my mind, the most important element of solar development is impact on wells, private wells and town water supply. It's like the biggest thing to me.
So is the blue, Pam, tell me what the blue is?
The blue was new material. I pulled that from setback and definition, not definitions, but setbacks, what do you call it? Design guidelines.
I very much like adding private wells, so I'm fine with it. So, I like, we actually have them. And this,
Stephanie,
Yeah,
Stephanie.
no, I agree you absolutely, because this is something that is not covered in the state guidelines. So absolutely, because this is a very important issue, especially to Amherst, then I would absolutely encourage you to do so.
So the staff review is, the distance, the setbacks, whatever is here should also be reflected in the design guidelines, I think.
Yeah, I was curious about the 400 feet. Where did that number come from?
Yeah, I don't remember. It
Okay.
was it was from design guidelines, but it may have been from public water supply.
I seem to recall, I have a vague recollection that it came from their white paper,
Yes, that could be.
suggested white paper comments.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And none of us except hydro engineers really understand how water moves through the soil. So it's important. This came from the state.
Right. I think the issue here is conflicting or inconsistency of naming titles.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
I read the bylaw, if I read
Yeah.
this comment. Because I don't think we ever use estimated or priority, or, I think it's always
Right.
land designated as core and critical on this, or priority.
Yep. So if staff could confirm that if there is standard language, that would be great.
And I'm not even sure. I think this is right. So, okay. So that was the site.
Yep.
That was the
So that
existing
was
conditions
existing,
plan.
right, existing conditions.
so the Stephanie comment on this next one, have we already fixed that? That we're not duplicative?
The site
Oh.
plans.
See, it says this is duplicative of requirements of other boards, only identify those that are unique to solar projects. So I didn't know whether everything that follows is duplicative, so.
We've been working on over this for a while, and I think if I am not mistaken, Stephanie, we've come to the conclusion that in this consolidated process, it's really important to show all your requirements in one spot. And we understand that the wording, I went through these looking pretty carefully. It's pretty specific to solar, even though it may say, give dimensions from other buildings or something. Yeah, but it's pretty specific.
And Kathy, just to be clear, this was a group staff review of the document. So my comments reflect basically all of the staff comments.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
that
Not
was,
just hers.
they're not just mine. I just want to be clear they're not just my comments.
No, on some of these, Stephanie, I think we tried to fix it to address it. So this sounds like one where we overrode. We deliberately have some that duplicate to have it all in one place. Yeah.
Yep, that's fine.
Yeah.
I'll leave the question in there for staff review. Clearly, this one's not in it, so
Right.
it just got included into the comment.
That's right.
but-
So it's in red. It came from the state.
Yeah.
I'm okay with number 2, all components not limited to panels. Total limit of disturbance, I think, is an appropriate one. That came from the state.
So I guess my question here is, we had an existing conditions that had 20-inch DBH, and then we have which ones are you taking out? Do we need the existing conditions, or do we just want the ones you're taking out?
The ones that you'd take out.
Which would be covered here, proposed changes to the property.
Yeah.
I don't know, Stephanie, what do you think?
Well, I mean, I sort of feel like some of the folks that are working with the regulations, I think it's a better for staff question than for me to say,
Okay.
because I have an opinion, but I think others might want to weigh in on that.
So
I'm gonna
Mandy,
add it
because
to here.
because they had added it to existing conditions, it made sense to me to repeat that here with, show what you're disturbing. So that's really where it plays out. It's like, I don't care if there are 10 other trees, on the property line, but the ones that are being removed are the ones that we should be concerned about.
Yeah, so my question is that does it need to be in the existing conditions, or do we only need to?
Only show up here. Would they know to even go measure them if they? If it's not in the existing conditions plan, it'd be a lot less work if they already knew which areas they were going to disturb. They could focus their survey attention on a smaller area. Maybe that's what we say in terms of existing conditions.
I'm basically okay with it being in 2 places. And then, I was shocked at how long the state one is, so I'm no longer worried about how
I
many.
was too. I was
I'm
one
no
that was like,
longer
why
worried
are there
about,
so many
I'm no
things?
longer worried about how long ours is.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I don't have a problem with identifying the ones that are being removed. I was curious about do we need to identify more than just the ones being removed? So
I could live with it if they said no. The 2-foot contour interval is something the state had, meaning you can't do 10-foot intervals, but you don't have to do 1 foot. So that's fine.
so I don't think we need the parenthetical.
We don't. Can we all agree that comes out?
Yes.
Um, okay.
I like that blue ad.
Yeah. So
Yeah, I think,
snow
yeah.
storage. I'm curious.
I don't think I don't think it's relevant out here if you're talking about a large area. Um, it could be for small in-town parcels where they really need to concern themselves. I could easily get rid of it.
Yeah, I'd delete it. Oh, I like that addition too. The location of noise producing equipment.
And then we're on to more documents.
Pam, tell me again, blue is what?
Blue came from another part, either another part of our document or something that we've discussed, and then I brought in. This is where I wanted to get my head around. Okay, Stephanie, I'll call on you a second. Get my head around mitigation plans. I mean, if we if we're asking them to show how they're addressing the loss of something, it made sense for me to have a mitigation plan. Stephanie.
I'm just going to go back to snow storage because I was going to say
Oh.
that has implications for wetlands. So there may be, I'm just thinking about Erin might be, I would be interested in her feedback on including snow storage or removing it.
So you would leave it in for now with a staff question.
Yes,
Okay.
exactly.
Okay, yeah,
So it goes back in, Mandy.
Yeah.
yeah.
And magically, all of those were renumbered. I love that. So Pam, I'm fine with that blue as long as it's reasonably well defined by somebody.
So,
Yeah.
So the replace wildlife habitat pollinator
so
friendly. Yeah.
I've got concerns for it. Wildlife habitat is not the only mitigation potentially, or not the main mitigation that might be needed. And frankly, given what we said in one of the earlier ones, no mitigation might be able to be required. So if no mitigation is required, I would put some, if site is deemed whatever, if site suitability score is whatever, proposed mitigation plans, and then I would just leave it at that, mitigation or minimization plans, because it could be minimization, not mitigation.
Yep, yep.
So I'm okay with putting something in, but I would qualify it with, for what was our site suitability? For all sites deemed, for sites that are not deemed highly suitable or something.
So you'd make it more.
So actually, but let's talk about this. So the examples given, and again, I don't know exactly where I got this from, but any project, probably wants its fences up the 6 inches so that small critters can go back and forth. Every project, if possible, would probably request, pollinator species instead of stone is the example given. So even if it's highly suitable, you'd still want those accommodations.
But we already require the 6-inch fence. That's not something that's
Okay,
part
so
of,
that's under
some of
fencing.
that's already required. And according to the draft guidelines for site suitability assessments, highly suitable can't require minimization or mitigation measures,
Okay.
which is
And
why we
I
put it
think
in
the thing-
there.
I think making it more general, Pam, whatever the proposed is, because there's a big range of water runoff. What are they going to do about water runoff? What are they going to do about, well, so it's in addition to wildlife, there are things that they might have to do on the site to make it work.
That might be stormwater
Right,
management.
stormwater management.
So
I'm
that's
saying
covered, that's covered somewhere else also.
So it's more saying if you're, for sites not the way she's written it now, proposed minimization, just tell us what you're planning to do. So we'll know what the
Yep.
problem is at the point
Yep.
it's not highly suitable.
Sure. And can we just add here, staff, is this needed?
Okay.
Okay, the next couple are, the red is state added.
I'm fine with that. Because presumably the manufacturer and the model will tell you some of the things that are flawed. I mean, I think that's a good add.
Great. Better English, thank you. Can we accept those changes? Yes.
Yeah.
So I am for the ones we're doing live, I will go and give you a clean version with them accepted after this.
Okay,
But then
great.
this has a track of what we changed during the meeting if I don't accept them now. I'll
Super.
accept the
Okay.
ones that were originally tracked in the document, but I've got a reason why I'm leaving some of them tracked. They
That's
will
fine.
be
That's fine. You've
accepted
got
at
your
the end,
system.
though.
Great.
So I changed here, I changed SPI to project because it might be BESS, not SPI.
Sure.
Just for clean of showing. I think we probably have to get rid of reformat this to just
Yeah. Yeah.
um,
Right. It could all be just a run-on. And those were listed as part of um, you know, documentation of actual access and control, meaning, do you own it? Can you
I think
access it?
these are good.
And I guess one of my questions was, Pam, this is in red, so that means the model bylaw actually had these
Yeah.
descriptions
Or
instead of
yeah.
okay.
No, they had, yes, you're right. They were actually, each one was a paragraph.
Okay. I just thought it weird to give some options in a bylaw, but if the model bylaw sort of did that.
It was
Okay.
in a note. I think it was in a note. So I brought the highlights of the note over.
So we just should look at
So
the
we
draft.
could, maybe that's superfluous.
Well, I mean, what the note is saying is when we want documentation, we need the legal documents that show all the following, so
Yep.
that's being specific here rather than putting a footnote in the bylaw makes sense.
Or we could just say legal documentation
Yeah.
and skip the descriptions.
I would be okay with that.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay, and so for so I think I called it, I just redid this was a change I made, Pam, which is just rewriting the sentence.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's
Is
fine.
all I did.
That's good. Yep, yep, that's good.
I didn't change what it was requiring, I just rewrote it.
It's so
And
bizarre.
then I referenced and then in J, I said if applicable, and then just said I referenced the section that details what the emergency response plan needs to include. Which I think includes training down below, but we can check.
Yeah, we need to check that.
Let me go check
Yeah.
that now.
Yeah, I mean, because emergency response plan is pretty extensive, so yeah.
Yeah, so the emergency shall include the following information.
I mean, that's very extensive.
Yes.
And that came from the
Yeah,
model?
and yes. Well, it came from this one probably either came from the model BESS, I'd have to go back and look, or it came from the guidelines for standards and conditions for the default grant if the municipality doesn't rule in 12 months. So it was
Got
one
it.
or the other. I'm not sure
Yeah.
which, but it does
And this-
include
Training.
training. So I think we
Yep.
can get rid of the training up here.
Good.
No.
Again, the project, that's fine. That looks good.
Yeah, I changed that.
Yep.
As I
Perfect.
said, because it might not just be an SPI.
Yep.
I made minimal changes. I didn't button
Yeah,
these
no,
things
it
like
looks good.
that.
Looks good. Looks great. Looks great. Okay, keep going.
Oh, wait, I wanted to highlight this because that's probably going to change number wise.
Okay, right, right.
Um,
Okay, now we get to S, the hazardous materials plan, management plan. I want to just make sure, right, is it redundant with emergency response plan itself? So there's emergency response plan, hazardous materials management plan. I would love to have staff review that for what's the most consolidated system of asking for documentation.
so we have treatment of hazardous materials and herbicides and an emergency
Mm-hmm.
response procedures. So
So when we get to that, the emergency response procedures to me seem like a submittal that would be required. You're going to submit ahead of time what your responses are going to be.
Yep,
well, we require that they're developed with the fire chief.
Yep.
yep, this all happens at the beginning. I mean, it's at the permit part.
So the question here is does this also should that bet be a submittal?
So if you go back, I mean,
I'm working on it.
yeah, no,
So again, this section is submittals.
Yes, this is the submittal sections. Um, so I guess the question is, do we need the plan at all when we have requirements for managing?
That's a really good staff question. And whatever is most diligent or most efficient for someone's review, what do they need for materials to review?
Just want to jump in real quick because when we had this initial conversation, um, we had Chris Bascom from the fire department reviewing with us, and his point was that they have their own specifications of what's required. And so, I'll pose it to him, but it sort of seemed like he sort of felt like theirs review is separate, but I still haven't sort of fully understood how this is all going to work with all of the different boards and committees submitting under one permit. And I don't know if, I can't imagine that fire is part of that, like that, because that is such a, that's all about the safety piece. So I would just pose that, yeah, I would pose that to staff as to whether this will be covered under fire or will fire be part of this consolidated permit.
See, yeah. Yep. Yep. Great. So while we're in this, I would hope fire would be part of that. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, good. Letter T, I think I also highlighted and just said, should letter T, which is a plan for the provision of water, including that which may be needed for fire protection and suppression, should letter T be included in the emergency response plan to include the
Yeah,
water
I think it
supply?
is. Sorry for all the scrolling.
And again, the question I think for staff is, do you lay out pretty carefully a pretty complete list of submittals? This is the information that you need for the basis of, whatever decisions are going to be made. So is it okay to have it in a submittal section, even if you touch on the like the conditions in it somewhere else?
So it doesn't, well, this set doesn't specifically say water, but it says extinguish the fire in
Yeah.
several places. Randy, I'm just scrolling and the word water is not there.
Yeah. There is a one that says a firefighting plan.
Yeah, firefighting plan, and then up above it says methods for extinguishing. It just never says like water on the site as opposed
Right,
to
because you might not use water.
You might not
not
use
use
water,
water,
right?
right?
So
Right.
so in this emergency response plan shall include the following information. To me, this is really, this should be part of a submittal. They need to know that they are going to have to produce
But
an emergency response plan. It's
we
almost like
included it
this.
as part of the submittal.
It's up in the submittal. And then it cross-references.
Okay, all right. Okay, good. Thank you.
Yeah.
I
No,
don't, my mind doesn't.
that's this. Where was it? We had it somewhere.
Soil management, hazardous materials.
Oh, right here.
Yes. Okay.
It's a submittal
Yep, as
requirement.
detailed in. Perfect. Good.
Yeah.
Good. I can die happy.
So we don't know about that one, but yeah, so the question is, I'm
Do we
not
need,
sure T is needed.
And T came from where, Pam?
it
I
came
don't
from
think-
another, it was like one of the notes in the state bylaw stuff.
But then I would take it out because we've got the words extinguishing, and so it's not just
Yep.
water.
Yep.
Yeah, because I think there's a realization that it might not be water that's used.
Right.
Okay. Did we deal with this redundancy one up here? I think so. Because of the question of can we just say this? So I'm going to delete this comment.
Okay.
This was a note from, wow, a year and a half ago. There we go.
Yeah. So it's not, I don't think that this is is it needed? I think in this case is there anything that we've missed? This is actually from the state. I mean, it complies with what the state was requesting. That's why it's in black. So we had this, the state had this, the only added material from the state was including the prime forest land identified disruption of any any best management practices that came from the model that we did not have previously.
So the red is what in number 2?
The red was in addition to what we had and the state had that we didn't have.
Question on the red.
Yeah, because it doesn't make sense to me to identify disruption and best management practice because it's an impact analysis. So it it has an impact and you're mitigating it? Is that what that's supposed to say?
Yeah, I was curious about the parenthetical and where
Yeah.
did the parenthetical come from?
So that came from a note. So the impact is um asking to identify what the disruption was and if there are any best management practices um for the conversion of prime farmland, continued use of land. Um, okay, I'm sorry. I'm now
Could
trying to
we
remember.
delete the parenthetical?
Um, the point in the parenthetical is somewhere in our material, we had the statement that whatever you do on this land, if it is agrivoltaics, which we haven't really addressed directly, if it's agrivoltaics, your your goal is to be able to walk away in 25 years and have that land still suitable for agriculture. And so I think that's the continued use of the land. What are the best management practices that you're undertaking that will allow for that continued use of the land?
But
Yeah,
that
so
to me,
that's,
yeah.
go Kathy.
No, it's different than an impact analysis. It is
That's
what
the
is,
mitigation plan.
it's a mitigation plan. It's
Yep,
because one of the suitability, they said prime farmland isn't a suitable place for this unless it's agrivoltaic. I mean, it was one of the
yep,
non, so if you're going to put it there, you better figure out how to leave it as prime
Yeah.
farmlands. So that's
yep,
what I'm just confused about. It's
yep,
everything else,
yep.
impact on forest, impact on this. They were supposed to just tell you, and then,
I'm
Right.
okay with that. I'm okay with that. Yep.
yeah.
I think we delete that and then the staff review is this necessary?
Given site suitability scoring. Yep. Right.
Because
Right.
they'll have the suitability score and then you've got the mitigation plan.
Yep. Yep. Good. Let's keep going.
Okay. Um, I just got rid of the word foregoing here.
Yep. Yep.
I think this was our hardest section to go over. Um, Okay. Dimensional standards for SPI. Model bylaw uses the language of primary use instead of accessory use. Our bylaw said 50 feet. Our draft had 50 feet with an allowance up to 100. When I drafted this comment, this was applying to all solar voltaic, including small scale and medium scale. We've exempted small scale from this. And so the question is, should we start lower anyway? Because some of it's not the LGPI. Our draft bylaw was only LGPI. But if it's going to be medium scale, maybe not small scale, we've exempted small scale from dimensional standards at this point. Um, do you start at the 20 feet with not less than 50 on residentials and still be able to go up to 100 like our draft did?
So Mandy,
So the
I just want to understand are you asking whether the things that follow in, oh my gosh, 1809,
Yes,
oh
the
01,
front, side, and rear.
021, are you asking whether 20 should be lower?
No, I'm saying I took the model bylaw 20, but it's a different from what our draft was, which was 50. So
Uh-huh.
I
Okay,
wanted to point out that I moved it from 50 to 20 because the model bylaw used 20, and I think they used 20 because it applied to small, medium, and large. Various differences in scales of solar arrays, right? And so
okay, I understand what you
yeah.
did then. So I guess my reaction is if it was large, we might probably want the 50. And I don't know how to
Mhm.
deal with two different scales in a
Right.
simplified version. You know, so I just think this is, how do we deal with, if it's really large, you want to go up to the 50, if it's smaller. So I just put it, rather than trying to fix it right now, I would just, you've already got a nice piece here. Do we need another section for large, you know, on this? And it's mainly this 20 feet in the setbacks, right? It's the sides and the fronts. Yeah.
Well, so part below, if you look below here, it does say, however, where the lot is within or abutting a residential district. I think most everything in Amherst is going to be abutting a residential district, so that does set it back to 50 feet.
Okay, you know, so I think I'm basically okay with what's written here, you
Okay.
know, rather than, oh yeah, we
Yeah,
have,
no, I think Pam's right because nearly, any large scale is going to be put in a residential district, right?
Right.
Um,
It's RN or RO or
or
RLD out there,
RLD,
so yeah,
right?
yeah.
It's the small scale in a potential commercial district that even that still might abut. So I'm going to get rid of this comment then.
okay.
Um, and the 100 feet is what the model bylaw allowed you to go up to no larger than. So I would say this comment is not necessary now. We'd be matching the model bylaw at 100.
Yep,
Yep.
I'm okay.
Resolve.
Um,
Here's where we got where we got the 400 feet.
Yeah, and this I had a question of. In Article 12, 400 feet, there's a definition for Zone 1 recharge area
Yep.
that defines it basically as 400 feet from a public water supply. So I guess my thought was, could we just reference the Zone 1 recharge area?
This is one, Mandy, where I'm okay with being specific the way it's written now, rather than having them have to go over and find out what zone 1 recharge area is. Just
Yeah,
go
I
ahead
agree
and-
because the next couple down is zones A and B, and I started to look those up and I said, this is nuts. Let's just give them distance.
Oh, but zones don't have distances, I don't think.
Well, we give a distance.
No, we give a distance from a zone A or B, but
Yeah.
zone A and B is much harder to describe. There's a map
Okay,
that
so
tells you whether you're in zone A or B.
I'm
okay,
basically
so we
okay the
still
way
have to look it up.
yeah, I'm okay the way this is written.
Yeah, and these numbers did come from the Public Water Drinking Committee.
Okay. And then we're to BESS. Standalone and co-located BESS dimensions.
Yep.
So this is one where I don't think we need the discussion anymore. I basically copied the language from above because the model bylaw actually said just comply with the zone setback requirements. And so the question is, do we just want to take the model bylaw language or actually specify minimums of 50 feet for, and here I used our original, I think, draft bylaw language because the model I didn't take. Thoughts?
Um, Kathy's going to feel like she says the same thing every time. I'd just really like a staff review of this. I am fine with the 50 feet and 100, Mandy, not just saying whatever the setbacks for the zoning district, because those setbacks are all in our zoning law. We're set with the idea that there is a house next to you, not a battery or a battery storage unit, which is very different. You know, I know there was one proposed for up here, and people just thought of how near it was going to be if you just use setbacks. So it needs more discussion on the limit, I think is fine. For right now, we go beyond what the setback would be in the zoning district.
The
It-
limit discussion was pulled in from the bylaw language, then we just resolved it up above because that's what the model was for
Yeah.
solar. So I'm okay with deleting this comment.
Yeah.
Is the staff review written well, Kathy? Is that good?
Yep. That looks good.
So I'm gonna make a point. Hold on, if we go up to number 3. Oh, you just passed it.
Yep.
Sorry.
No, I know.
01.03.
Oh, a one. So
No,
solar.
no, 18.09.01.03, right
Yeah.
there.
So
Yes.
this is solar. This is solar, not BESS.
This is solar, exactly, but I need to come back to this before I forget. So this is a minimum no disturbance area. This doesn't say, a minimum of 100 feet to the fence line, because it always assumes that there's a lot of activity between the fence and the edge of no disturbance. So I think it was the no disturbance that was important in the solar array part of it that I think is equally important in the BESS portion of it.
So
So,
are you thinking
0103,
repeat? So you're thinking repeat it, Pam?
yeah,
So it's repeated down here of 100 feet. It's in 7 in the BESS section.
It's there from a private well?
It's just in a different. I reordered them, I guess.
maybe that's the
Um,
problem.
but it is here. No disturbance of
Okay, yep.
100 feet from a private well maintained.
So where it says 100-foot buffer outside of 100-foot buffer, I think the
Where?
buffers need, it's let's see, it would be 18.09, 0.02, 0.03.
No, 0.04 is
Oh,
got the
4,
word
I
in it.
think.
And
Standalone
then
or
04, yeah.
co-located BESS
Yes. 04.
constructed out of a.
Outside of the 100-foot no disturbance zone.
Well, one says no disturbance 400 feet and one says 400 buffer.
Right.
And
That's
they're
what I'm
right
trying to
next to each other. From public water supply.
Yep.
So 04 and 05.
So 05 says a minimum no disturbance distance, which is what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah. So we don't have. So in solar, we have SPIs are constructed outside of a 400-foot buffer zone from a surface water supply, which is different than a public water supply. Why is one surface and why is one public? Because this could be ground. Oh, this is the well.
That could also be well.
That's a
supply
well. Sorry, that's
yeah.
a well. The public
Yeah.
water supply well is 400 feet, and a buffer zone, you have to be outside of the buffer zone. So I think the disturbance. Yeah. Oh no, I think we have to ask what the difference on some of these is.
Right. And I'd like to make the point that I like the no disturbance zone, because you could have 400 feet from the edge
Oh.
of your pond, but if 200 feet of that has been disturbed,
Yeah, so the disturbance is for wells.
Because it's got the
No
word well.
disturbance is wells, and water supply, surface water supply is construction.
So that's why 4 and 5 are there.
So they're different. One's talking about you can't disturb anything. You could potentially construct, well, I don't know how you'd construct without disturbing, but
right, right.
it's an interesting thing that one is constructed and one is no disturbance. But one is 400 feet from a wellhead, basically. And the other one's 400 feet from the
The edge of
the reservoir, essentially.
The edge of the reservoir, right, right.
But I'm not sure that's possible since I think we've bought up all 400 feet around our reservoirs, but
yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, we use no disturbance, no disturbance, no disturbance. Should this be no disturbance?
That's what I'm asking.
Yeah.
I didn't say it that succinctly. That's what. Thank you.
And I'll put that same one up here too. On the solar. And so when we get these answers, one thing we might be able to do is possibly combine the two sections.
So if Samantha, you're saying if large and BESS are identical,
They're almost identical right now. The only difference is for solar, it's 20, 20, and 25, and for BESS, it's 50 right now. With a minimum, but we might be able to, everything else is like the same. Well, oh no, there's one difference, I think. So but we might be able to not have to repeat stuff, do for all clean energy systems, and then for solar this, for BESS this.
Yeah, so we can, that to me is another set of eyes later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, this is a
I think this is where you would have to be super careful because there's an accurate public perception is the very big, level 2 and 3 BESSes feel more dangerous than the solar array. The solar array is
Yeah.
glare and other stuff. The BESS is where the concern is, whether it's near water or near your house. So
And I guess the question is for solar, are they also appropriate, right? Like if it's just solar, could they be smaller? And I know that's
and I
in
just want to
the
try,
400, the 100. I don't know.
my sense of the amount of land we have in Amherst that can have large scale solar is that would be highly suitable. Is we're not talking about a lot of properties, but
I'm gonna put the same question here.
okay.
Okay, now we're into design requirements.
Yeah. Oh, actually, before we do that, the 1809, 02, 07, and 8, I had a question. Could we just combine those two? From a private well be maintained. So it's this, oh, it's the same thing. Well,
Yeah, is this necessary?
right. Well, that says prohibited. And the one above it is a minimum disturbance of 100 feet.
Right.
I don't understand the difference. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's clearly clearer to say prohibited rather than a no disturbance zone, but
Right, but the no disturbance zone is not just the place that you put the BESS, it's
Right.
the stuff around it, right?
So it may be this is very clear. You just can't get any nearer than 100 feet, period.
Yeah. Okay, we're gonna leave that. Clearances, I just changed the question to Dave's question to a staff review. So one thing that got added was appurtenant structures is a new one.
So that came from the state.
Yeah.
I wondered about the last sentence, all such appurtenant structures, including but not limited to, shall be architecturally compatible. Who the heck cares? These are not, let's get rid of that sentence.
Like I said, this one came from the state. So, I mean,
Yeah.
and this one's only those for SP R not special permit, which makes no sense either.
Yeah. The bulk and the height, this is a dumb section. I'd like to get rid of the whole thing.
I'm okay getting rid of the whole thing.
It's like, really? If people complain about, ADUs, why the heck are they doing it for appurtenant structures and solar? So clearances, yeah, okay, the height clearances, yeah,
Yeah,
glare,
that's an old one.
yeah.
Glare is an old one.
Can we look at glare though? Just
Yeah.
the first sentence, any abutting or nearby. I thought residences was better than properties because who cares if it's a field? It doesn't matter, but it's the residence that counts.
That's fine. I'm much okay with this language is more I think this one is the model bylaw language, so I'm happy to I was the one that had the issues with reflection and all of that, so I'm happy to get rid of the comments.
Okay.
This one is DPW the right entity?
Yeah.
Okay, so hold on before we go. So this is um I guess most of this looks to be from the state model. Is that right?
Which one? Are we on land
This is
clearing and soil
the
erosion?
land clearing and,
Yes.
and soil erosion. Um,
Yes.
I think most of them seemed reasonable. I did have a note, I made myself a note that says add back in that soil disturbance shall be minimized during construction, including grading, compaction, soil removal, and soil replacement. Somehow that got lost.
I thought I might have moved it. Maybe not. I thought I moved it to construction and monitoring, but it might not be there.
Yeah, it wouldn't be. mm, I think it's sort of an overall statement that
Yeah, okay. I guess I didn't move it.
And I would, I guess, so Pam, it's your question whether it's a design requirement or during construction requirement, and not, Kathy doesn't understand what the difference is since,
Oh, I think what I did was I put it down here on standard permit conditions, maybe. No,
well, let's
because it
so
seems
it,
like it's more of a permit condition than a design requirement. What was the wording?
soil disturbance shall be minimized during construction, including grading, compaction, soil removal, and soil replacement. It's kind of an umbrella. And then, then topsoil shall not be imported, all existing soils kept on site, slope stabilized, blah, blah, blah. I
Those
mean,
were all
maybe
part of conditions, so I think so.
it may be fine to not have it. It was more a, hey, in your big scope of things, when you're planning out your project, we want you to really minimize disturbance if you possibly can.
Compaction, what else?
Um, grading, compaction, soil removal, and soil replacement. So all of those elements are addressed. Maybe we could just say soil disturbance shall be, minimized in planning the project. Soil disturbance shall be minimized.
Do we have that whole section on, I'm just,
We had, we had a whole soils.
and we have a whole thing on what happens during construction. Can we just, for the time being, say this has to go somewhere? And does it go under? So here's this, avoid siding, topsoil shall not be imported. All existing soil shall be kept on site unless approved for
I
removal.
wonder if that was, I think what I'm thinking is there a soil disturbance? No.
No, it's
Well,
just
just
a, it's
that-
just a,
Okay.
it's more of an umbrella statement. Minimization of, yeah, minimization. Oh, thank you. That's fine. Let's leave it at that. I don't want to belabor it.
How are we, I'm just doing
Um,
a time check. We have 15
Yep,
minutes.
we have
6
15
o'clock.
minutes. There was one item that I added to the agenda, which since we don't have any attendees, I'm going to address right now, and that was the new charge for the CRC. Do we have to vote on that at all?
No, that was
No.
approved
Okay,
by the council.
okay. Then we don't need to talk about it.
So Stephanie had a thing here about screening and planting of screened year-round, public, private, but, and is it duplicative and redundant of this paragraph?
I said in that first sentence, hold on. In the first sentence, adding vegetative buffers and or fencing to provide an effective year-round visual barrier. I figured that covered most of the bases. An effective year-round visual barrier. Yeah.
And then you can remove the next paragraph completely.
Yes.
I'm gonna leave the waive the requirements
Yep.
because for now, because I'm not a big fan of requiring screening from roads and driveways necessarily, but I don't mind seeing them from a road versus minimizing glare. We can discuss that if I'm on CRC next spring. Otherwise,
Okay, can we go back up to we skipped over one, which was the lighting.
uh-huh.
I think we could be simpler. Lighting should be limited to that which is required for the safety of and operational purposes for the safety of employees and visitors and for operational purposes.
So this
I
is
don't
the
have
model bylaw language.
I think safety, Pam, this is simple. Safety and operational.
And extinguished outside of normal hours of use.
Great. So why don't we just leave it at that and then get
Oh,
rid of the rest of it?
And get rid of this.
Yeah,
This. That's
yeah,
fine.
yeah. Good, thank you.
Anything else in that?
Not that one.
Moving on to 11.
How about signage? Somehow it feels like we should be able to combine these these two paragraphs.
So they're not totally identical, right? Because the best one needs the hazards, the battery systems, suppression systems. If you read them, it's actually a lot more, the best one's requiring a whole lot more stuff than the SPI.
And I think it should because it's going to have all sorts of warnings on it.
Right.
Don't,
That's
high
fine. That's
voltage.
fine. If they're different enough and one is an emergency contact kind of a thing, which both of them actually should have, but I'm fine with it.
Yeah, the one it does require solar does require the 24-hour emergency number.
Yeah.
So they both do require that part, but solar doesn't need as much as BESS does in terms of
That's fine. Let's
signage.
keep going. Let's keep going.
So specific types of insulation. So this is where I combined the agrivoltaics best sort of design requirement, these various parts of our bylaw that had various things, forest design stuff. I put it into all section 11. So you'll see that this first section is just BES. These apply to BES only, which is electrical code. These came from the BES model bylaw, basically.
Yep.
And so it's a lot of BES stuff. We could put a staff, I guess the question for Stephanie would be, do you need to put a staff review of this? I think they'll just read this and comment no matter what, right?
Okay, hold on, right where you are, the 09, ending in 09. There's a sentence in there that talks about the adequate water supply and firewater containment strategies. I wanted to highlight that because I think that's really good that it's in there. That led to, I think that's what maybe led to including in the stormwater management plan and the erosion control plan, there needs to be some way to address possible use of fire suppression water. And so I'm glad that's here. I think that's enough of a trigger to alert somebody to that concern.
Yeah, because this one says it should be primary water, but it sort of future proofs maybe there's other ones that are coming out that are more effective. Okay. And then the next ones are sort of your agrivoltaic one that I didn't call agrivoltaics, but anything put on prime farmland and soils of statewide importance. So this is where our agrivoltaic sections was sort of, and then that was the mounting and foundations and the 12 feet. But this is where I brought those things in.
So can we just pause for a second there before it's the BES owner or operator shall provide a copy of the project summary. Where is that? Yeah, right there. Again, this feels a little redundant with submittal plans. What are you submitting?
Yeah.
And I just wanted to highlight that for, does it make sure we include it in submittal with details to follow in section 18.11.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's probably already in 18 or 14. Right?
It should be.
Yeah, because it doesn't need to be here.
Yes. So in the section that you just highlighted, I noted probably could be in 18.08.
Well, I was thinking it could be in the emergency response plan.
I think that's where it was. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think
This whole section just needs to be thought of reading.
Comprehensively.
It's because until this is signed off, it's not a go. So
right.
Stephanie said then it gets complicated with a comprehensive permit.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. And this is one of the newest sections, so it's a section that we'll have to read much closer later. But I'd certainly like staff's comments on it. Then it's the agrivoltaics things, mounting and this, which means this could be the section that Pam, you were thinking of when you were talking about the soil stuff for whatever that was.
Yes.
Well ahead. Where was that? Was that in
I had a
submittals?
note. I had a note that the maintenance of land for future use, future use of the land for farming activity was our section 18.0603. And that would be a good spot to insert it here. It's like one is all the requirements for prime forest, the other is all the requirements for continued agricultural use.
Right. Yeah, prime forest is this one.
Right.
Oh, and you were thinking copy something similar to this into agricultural?
Actually, I was thinking of inserting the agricultural one here as simply use and maintenance of the land shall
But wait a minute,
ensure that.
this section is prime forest.
Right. This one
Right,
here
and I'm
is
saying-
prime forest,
Correct.
not
think-
not agrivoltaics farmland.
Right. What I'm trying to say is I think it feels to me that we need a similar one to this, but it would be for the
Yeah,
agrivoltaics.
okay.
And it doesn't need to be that extensive because it's not. I can see like number 5, yes, add a similar section. And the gist of it is to maintain land for future use in agriculture.
Okay. We'll just leave
Okay.
that as a comment.
Yep. Okay, we got 4 minutes. What can we do in 4 minutes?
Stormwater did not change from our draft. Hazardous changed a bunch.
And
I
we'd
didn't
like
have-
staff,
I think
like
it's just
staff
a
to look
staff
at that.
review,
yes.
but it's a general staff review of it. I'm not sure there's any specific questions to it. Other than the herbicides. So this was one, yeah, I don't know why this one's still here. If I thought I pulled most of the herbicide application from the zoning, the model bylaw. Okay. And then there's that. And then the emergency response plan is pulled mostly from one of the guidelines for default approval of BES,
Yep.
or a combination of stuff.
Mhm. The one thing I'd like to maybe add as a comment is, do we have, or it was part of the emergency response. It was 18.13.04. Are there protocols for addressing the discharge of hazardous materials? And I think we do. I think it's included in those, all the procedures and shutdowns. So I think we're good.
So yeah,
It's-
in hazardous materials sections and the hazardous waste section, there is a emergency response procedures need to be developed. If you're storing,
Right.
not everyone's going to have storage of hazardous materials on site.
Yeah, this was the topic where we said we want to plan ahead of how you're going to address an
Yes.
issue as
And
opposed to.
it's required if you do have hazardous materials on site.
Great. Okay.
I'm sorry to interrupt,
Okay.
folks. It's Athena. The Charter Review Committee is starting at 6 o'clock, so I have to ask you to wrap up, please.
Well, heck. That's unfortunate.
So we have building inspection, construction modifications.
I didn't have issues of that. I think if we have issues, maybe we could write them up.
If you send them to me, I could put them not today or tomorrow, but I could get them into a final thing to send to Pam to send on to staff, and maybe we don't have to meet next week. Because it's most of this is the stuff we did very recently, and
Yeah.
most of it's either the same or pulled from model.
Yeah, so I think they are gonna shut us off. We have no minutes, we have no future agenda items except this. And help me out here. So I'm gonna draft the message for staff, and I'm gonna send it to both of you. You can add whatever you want. Take that in the correct manner. And then I still was hoping to talk about that last couple of pages of all the material that kind of got dumped at the end.
Well, it's 6 o'clock. We can't.
Yeah.
And so the question is, are we canceling the 18th or not? I would just as soon do this memo to staff and say, we stopped doing all the review on, page X, but here's the reader's guide where it's blue or where it's green or whatever, here to how to do it. So rather than come back to this next week.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
did-
we're gonna change committees soon. I would just rather have the staff be able to start its review.
Where did we stop? What number?
I'm gonna mark it in here.
1815, the building permit and building inspection.
Right. Okay. And I'll send out an email to you all, just to clarify what I think we decided on. Okay, so, we are not going to have a meeting on the 18th. And, we will send a message to staff, and Stephanie, thank you for everyone else, for your help.
I make a motion to adjourn.
I'll
Thank
second.
you. We're
Yeah.
all in favor. We're adjourned.
Bye,
Thank you
everyone.
all.
Thank you.
Thanks, Stephanie.